Actually, that conversation did bring a thought to mind as I took a sip of my milkshake, noting that it was actually incredibly delicious. I most definitely hadn't had anything this good in the Yellow District. This was definitely awesome, but it still didn't retract from my line of thought. Another curse of having a super brain. The thoughts just keep whirling, stacking one on top of the other. Just because you're thinking about one thing doesn't mean that your brain can also be thinking about something else. So, I looked up for a moment across to Emily, enjoying her milkshake for the moment being. "Hey, Em," I asked, looking across at her very sincerely. "When I first asked you out, way back, when we were still in the Yellow District a long time ago, why did you say no?" For a moment, Em looked at me puzzled as she pulled herself away from her milkshake, and then started to get a concerned look on her face as she adjusted a bit of her long red hair to pull it out of her face. "Why are you bringing that up again? I mean, I said no. What's so strange about it? I didn't ask you whether you said yes or no. I asked you why you said no. You're dodging the topic." Em looked away for a moment, almost having a somewhat sad expression on her face. "To be honest, I don't really know how to answer the question," Em said, as her fingers started tapping away at the milkshake in her hands. "I mean, it's not like I don't like you or something. You're a great guy. It's just, it's more complicated. I mean, this world is a dangerous place." "Well, I understand at least that much from the talk that we had the other day." "What talk?" Emily replied. "Oh, I forgot you were hammered," I said, beginning to scratch my head a bit. Once again, my superbrain at work. Nanites. I don't forget, even if I'm hammered. The memories still get stowed, and I can access them anytime. I also don't suffer hangovers. Another perk. But primarily, you had a discussion with me when we first got into Newgate City, the night that I met my parents and my brother. You talked about how you were afraid of, well, being connected to someone relationship-wise. "Oh my God, I didn't," she said, putting her hand over her face in embarrassment for a moment, starting to flush ever so gently. "Great, now every time I get drunk and say something stupid, you're gonna remember it. Stupid nanites." "Come on, Em, you don't have to worry about me remembering things you said. I'm not gonna disappear because you think you embarrassed yourself. I'm not gonna disappear at all. And we're not in the Yellow District anymore. We don't have to constantly look over our shoulders for the rest of our lives anymore. We're safe. Well, at least as safe as we can reasonably be for the time being. And once Alexander is dealt with, there won't be any more danger at all. We'll just be able to live our lives. Things have changed, Emily. So why can't we change with them?" Emily looked away again, now starting to clasp at her milkshake a bit harder. No, we can't do that." "Why not? I mean, I like you. You like me, don't you? I have a feeling about this. There have been way too many times when I was certain that the feelings went both ways. So why don't we ever act on them?" You don't understand," Emily replied, as she finally looked back to me. You're just not risking as much as I am." What are you talking about?" "I think a relationship is kind of risky on both sides. It's not as if it's all on you. But I'm the one who loses if things don't work out. Jax, well, You're basically all I have. I don't have a family. I don't have any other friends. I most definitely don't have any boyfriends. If I go there with you, if I push this into a relationship and things go south, if it doesn't work out, then what if I end up alone? Lose the only friend that I have. After that, I'll have no one. I don't have any other relatives besides Danny, and I can barely look him in the eye. Most of the time, I'm sick of seeing his face, and I most definitely don't want to talk to him, any more than I absolutely have to. I've got no one and nothing to fall back on. Before, I at least thought we were both in the same boat with that. It was better for both of us not to risk it, because you didn't have anyone to fall back on either. You had no family and no other friends. The only questionable friend that you had was Al, and he was more like a gruff old father figure than any sort of friend. But now, everything seems to be changing in your favor. You've regained your memories. And not only do you have a family, it's an absurdly wealthy family, with a twin brother, a beautiful mother, a stoic, business-prompt father, and even a pretty little blonde girl, who I noticed was looking at you quite interestingly. And her other visits have been much the same. She's into you, I can tell. If we try for a relationship, and it doesn't work out, now I'm the only person who loses everything. You'll still have a family, other people to fall back into, and even a girl who no doubt digs you. And I'll just be poor Emily, all lost and alone by herself. You have to be kidding me, I shouted, as I stood up from my chair, putting my hands on the table in front of me. You actually think that if things didn't work out between us, that I just leave you out in the cold? Just let you be alone forever? God damn it, Emily! That is so freaking insulting, I said, a furious expression on my face. Insulting? You have a great life. How is that insulting? Emily said, as she stood up from her chair as well. It's insulting that you think I'm the kind of guy who would just turn his back on you. So what if we started a relationship? So what if it didn't end the way that I hoped it might? You actually believe that I would just leave you high and dry? That I'd never want to look at you again, or be around you? That I'd just banish you from my life, just like that? I mean, seriously, how much of an asshole do you take me for? That's easy for you to say, Emily replied, looking at me furiously. As I said, if things don't work out, I'm the only one who loses everything. It's not like you can promise me that if things don't work out, that we can still be friends, that everything will work out like happy rainbows and sunshine for you while I'm out in the rain. You can't promise something like that. You don't know. Anything could happen. Oh, so it's better that we live our lives in fear of what might be bad, what negative things could happen in the future. Don't chase any dreams or hopes or ambitions. Just live your life in a safe little bubble. Don't ever take a chance or risk. It could end poorly. And for a matter of fact, I can promise you that there's absolutely no way in hell I'm just gonna not see you anymore just because we had a relationship and broke up. You're way too important for that. I don't think I could live without you in any form, even if you were an ex-girlfriend. I seriously doubt that I could deal with not having you around. In fact, I think it's damn near impossible to even consider. So, when you say it's a risk, I say that's a bad joke. The only thing that you need to ask yourself is whether you trust me. Do you trust that what I feel for you is more than just some momentary infatuation, a crush that'll fade away? Do you trust that I care about you enough to not cut you out the moment we don't work out as a couple. When you're saying that you're too scared to enter a relationship, all you're really saying is that you don't trust that I really care about you. That is so wrong, Emily shouted back. Don't say something like that. Of course I trust you. I trust you with my life. Well then, if you trust me, then there shouldn't be a problem, I replied, looking at her seriously. You're right, there shouldn't be, she said, yelling right back at me. Both of us leaned forward, hands pressed against the table, glaring each other down. And after that, there was a few moments of silence where we just stared at each other. And the looks went from angry to almost a sense of realization on our face as we realized the conclusion that we just came to. As suddenly, we reached out for each other, almost simultaneously. Emily throwing aside the milkshake in front of her, sliding it right off the table without question, and sliding across it herself. And before we knew it, we were kissing. Kissing very heavily, arms starting to wrap around each other as she slid across the table to me. And for a few moments, the entire world seemed to, well, just not matter, as we were lost in the moment, like we were the only two people in the world. We, of course, very soon got a rude awakening that we weren't, as suddenly there was a ring of applause that finally broke us out of the make-out trance that we somehow pushed ourselves into, finally pulling our faces apart for the time being, as we looked over to see the group of people sitting at the tables around us, smiling and applauding, whistling and shouting. Apparently, this was a rather enjoyable show for them, and Emily blushed and covered her face with one hand for a moment, feeling embarrassed, realizing the display she just put on in front of this audience. But safe to say, audience aside, I was very happy with the change in status.